Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, if anyone thought Donald Trump would tone things down after he'd won the election, I think the period when he's been president-elect will make them think again. The inauguration's coming up this Friday in Washington, and the build-up to it has been surrounded by more controversy than I can ever remember in a build-up to the inauguration of a president. In a moment, we're going to talk to a man who knows Mr. Trump well, TV presenter Piers Morgan. Let's just have a look again at that press conference Mr. Trump gave on Wednesday, in which, among many things, he took the opportunity to rubbish reports that Russia has obtained compromising information about his private life.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen, and I think it's a disgrace. I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
you are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state...
Quiet. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. Does anyone really believe that story? I'm also very much of a germaphobe, by the way. If Putin likes Donald Trump, guess what, folks? That's called an asset, not a liability. The only one that cares about my tax returns are the reporters, okay? They're the only ones. But no, I don't think so. I won.
Do you believe
I became president.
There we go, Donald Trump at his first press conference. Piers, will he change as president? Because he hasn't changed in the run-up to being inaugurated.
No, I don't think he will. I don't think he sees any point in changing. Why would he change from the personality that just won? As he just said, I won. And all the bleeding heart liberals in the world can all weep, wail and gnash their teeth and say how ghastly this all is and Hillary should have won and so on. But actually, he's got an incredible mandate. Remember, Trump has the House, he has the Senate, he's going to have the Supreme Court. He's got incredible power right now, and he doesn't have to listen to anybody. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and specifically about Twitter, and I asked him what the impact was of Twitter. And he said, look, I had 16 million people following me on Twitter, the same again on Facebook. I was able to bypass mainstream media, bypass all normal political convention and talk directly to potential voters. Secondly, I could turn on the TV in the morning, I could see a rival getting all the airtime, and I could fire off a tweet, he said, for free, because a marketing man, he loved that, and boom, on the news agenda again. And he said, and he was able to use that magnificently. And as he says, Twitter to him didn't cost him $1.
So he's going to carry on tweeting in the middle of the night as President of the United States?
He doesn't sleep much. I mean, he literally, in the last 6 weeks of the election campaign, I was told he was living off 21 hours of sleep a night. But you've got to remember about Trump, he's never had an alcoholic drink, never had a cigarette, never had a drug. He's a very fit guy for 70. He's got incredible energy. He's incredibly competitive. And he's, at his heart, a businessman. If you look at him as a political ideologue, you completely miss the point of Trump. That's why I think, don't take anything he says completely literally. Look upon it as a negotiating point that he started from, and try and do business with him as a business person would, and you may be pleasantly surprised.
There's one thing that does strike me, which is he treats the press or the media entirely different from any other politician or main politician, in that normally the politicians try to get the media off a particular subject, or they try to conciliate with the media. He just comes and punches the media in the nose when he doesn't like. This could catch on, you know.
There are two things. You're absolutely right. That is, I mean, for a start, no one could accuse him of letting that victory go to his head. You know, he hasn't suddenly said, well, I've won, I'll now be this lofty president. He's exactly the same as he was before. And you're absolutely right. What's fascinating, the relationship with the media. I haven't met, and I'm sure you haven't, us a lot haven't, met a party leader who isn't obsessed with the media, but they pretend not to be. You know, they say, I bump into people who say, oh, someone told me about a column, I didn't read it, of course. He doesn't pretend. He's utterly transparent in his obsession with the media. Now, how that plays out, who knows? But it's a completely different dynamic than anyone's seen before.
But here's the issue. He has appointed an unusual cabinet, a cabinet that you could criticize in many ways, but nearly all of them are independent people in their own right. A lot of them are wealthy too. They have their own views. They might not like what he tweets at 3 in the morning, and he does have to deal with this cabinet now. I mean, Mad Dog Mattis, now the defense secretary, he might not like what's said about China at 3 in the morning.
He might not, and I think this is where it gets very complicated. I mean, we can't imagine here in our political system any kind of appointments like this. You simply wouldn't have a lineup of billionaires of the kind of background that he has chosen. But I don't think that's going to stop him, as Piers said, saying and tweeting what he thinks. Yes, maybe it'll cause him some internal issues when the following day he has to square it with whatever they think, but, you know, he's just going to press ahead.
Are we any clearer yet in terms of policy? And I know policy hasn't really featured hugely or bigly, as somebody might say, in this in the campaign of 2016. Do we have any real clear idea yet what Mr. Trump is hoping to achieve?
Well, he has had some consistent themes going back over 20, 25 years. One of them is a deep skepticism about international trade and the kind of deals that America has been doing over that period. And it's been so consistent that it's hard to spin as just something you say during the course of a campaign to get elected. Ultimately, I think Piers is correct that he won't change. When he won the election and he gave a relatively magnanimous victory speech, I thought actually his ego has been sated, he's got what he wants, he will end up governing as a slightly eccentric New York liberal, everything will be fine. Now, in the intervening weeks, it's come to my attention that that might not be entirely true. And it's a test, it's a real test of the American system, the checks and balances, the foreign policy establishment, which is about to have all their orthodoxies disrupted. It's the biggest test of the American system, quite possibly,
well,
since
I think
the
it's the
Civil
end
War.
of the system. I mean, I think he's completely ripped up the American political system. Washington, as we know it, is dead. Trump is going to do things his way. He doesn't care, frankly, what any of us think, however venerable we may be. And in the end, what Trump is betting on is if he can deliver for the people that voted for him, who felt disaffected, disenfranchised. 70% of Americans, remember, before the election, despite what Barack Obama would have you believe, were disaffected with the way the country was heading. And they voted accordingly. They want to see jobs. They want to see the economy in good shape. They want to feel secure. They want to feel that immigration has been tightened. And if Trump can deliver on those main themes for the Rust Belt communities of America, I'm telling you, he will go down as a very successful president. And all the offensive rhetoric and the argy-bargy with CNN and whatever it may be will be completely irrelevant.
Let me finish with Mr. Trump on a parochial question. Is it fair to say that he's quite well disposed to this country? And that he would like, that he's up for a speedy free trade, a bilateral free trade deal?
Well, here's where I think we've got to be sensible as a country. And you can mock and abuse him all you like, but come Friday, he's the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world. He said to me, he feels half British. His mum was born and raised in Scotland until she was 18 years old. He feels half British. He loves Britain. His own mother used to love watching the Queen. And he feels very, you know, I would roll out the red carpet for Trump, bring him, let him meet Her Majesty, talk about his mum. Because the crucial point for us, surely, as a country, is coming out of Brexit, and now it looks like a hard Brexit. If we can do a very speedy deal within an 18-month period with the United States, which really sends a message to the world, we're back in the game, that is a hugely beneficial thing for this country.
OK. Well, a man whose advisors were indicating that maybe he should learn a few things from Donald Trump was Jeremy Corbyn. Yes, indeed. And Mr. Corbyn appeared on the Andrew Marr show this morning. Let's just have a listen to what he had to say.
If you don't win Copeland, and if you don't win Stoke-on-Trent Central, you're toast, aren't you?
No.
You're not.
Our party is going to fight very hard in those elections, as we are in the local elections, to put those policies out there. It's an opportunity to challenge the government on the NHS. It's an opportunity to challenge them on the chaos of Brexit. It's an opportunity to challenge them on the housing shortage. It's an opportunity to challenge them on zero-hours contracts. That's what we're going to be doing.
Is there ever a moment that you look in the mirror and think, do you know what, I've done my best, but this might not be for me?
I look in the mirror every day and I think, let's go out there and try and create a society where there are opportunities for all, where there aren't these terrible levels of poverty, where there isn't homelessness, where there are houses for all, and where young people aren't frightened of going to university because of the debts they're going to end up with at the end of their course.
Mr. Corbyn earlier this morning. Steve, would it be fair to say that the mainstream of the Labour Party has now come to the conclusion that they just have to let Mr. Corbyn get on with it, that they're not going to try and influence what he does? They'll continue to have their own views and they won't be Corbynite, but it's his show now. It's up to him. If it's a mess, then he has to live with it and we'll have clean hands.
For now, yes. I mean, I think they made a mistake when he was first elected to start, in some cases, tweeting within seconds that it was going to be a disaster. This was Labour MPs. They made a complete mess of that attempted coup in the summer, which strengthened his position. And he did, this gave Corbyn the space with total legitimacy to say that part of the problem is we're having this public civil war.
Yes.
So in keeping quiet, that disappears as part of the explanation for why Labour are low in the polls. So yeah, I think they're partly doing that. But they're also struggling, the so-called mainstream Labour MPs, to decide what their distinctive agenda is. It's one of the many differences with the 80s, where you had a group of people sure of what they believed in and they left to form the SDP.
Indeed.
What's happening now is they're leaving politics altogether.
But that's a crisis of social democrats all across Europe, including the French socialists, as we'll find out later in the spring. Let Corbyn be Corbyn. That's the strategy.
I think that there's a weary resignation, and in fact, obviously, some literal resignation from the moderates in the Labour Party now, who, you know, if you talk to them, they're no longer angry, really. They've almost run out of steam to be angry about what's going on, and they're just sort of, you know, tired and feel that they've just got to see this through now. I think the by-elections will be interesting, but when Andrew Marr said, "You're toast, aren't you?" I thought, no, he's never toast.
No, I think when he said he's not, that was right. Quick thought from you, and then we'll finish up with Piers.
One thing Corbyn has in common with Trump is immunity to bad news. I think he can lose Copeland and lose Stoke, and as long as there's not a sequence of resignations and by-elections afterwards, with maybe a dozen or 20 Labour MPs going, he can still endure.
He may be in more trouble if Len McCluskey loses the United election.
Trade unions, yeah.
That'd be a different matter, but we shall see. Final, what's your take on
Well,
Mr.
look,
Corbyn?
we're in a period of incredible unpredictability generally in global politics. And actually, if you look at the way the next year plays out, if, for example, Brexit was a disaster and it starts to unravel very, very quickly, and Theresa May is attached to that, then clearly Labour would have a great opportunity, potentially, to seize that higher ground and to win against the Tories. Is Corbyn the right guy? Well, look, we had him on Good Morning Britain this week. Susanna Reid and I interviewed him. What struck me was he talked about being Trump, right? Obviously a laughable comparison. But what's really laughable was this. Hillary Clinton, what were the things she stood for? Nobody really knew. Trump, what did he stand for? Everybody knew. Corbyn has got to work out 4 or 5 messages and bang, bang, bang. If he takes that Trump tip, then he could still be in business.
We shall see. Piers, thanks for being with us now.